What's up, y'all? How we doing? So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first question I'm going to ask you all to think about is this. How would you answer that question? What does the modern athlete have to go through that you didn't when you were coming up as an athlete? How would you answer that question? We ask a lot of athletes that and a lot of coaches that, and these are some of the answers that they said. Becky, when you see that, the first thing, obviously, that everyone says is social media. If you were going to take it one step deeper, how would you do that?
Well, social media has changed everyone's lives, but I think when you take it deeper, it's about all the things that go into social media, the comparison, the need to continually post, the 24/7 scrutiny from social media.
And so these are things that you never experienced.
Absolutely.
And so if you were, as an athlete, getting advice from someone that was trying to give you advice on stuff that they had never experienced, how would you have received that as an athlete?
I think at best I would have had an internal eye roll, probably external, if I'm being honest, and not really paid too much attention to it.
And I think that's why this parable means so much to us. "What on earth are you doing?" said I to the monkey when I saw him lift a fish from the water and place it in a tree. "I'm saving it from drowning," was the reply. Now, if you give that to athletes, they might look at you confused. But if you break it down, if the monkey stays underwater, what happens? It dies, right? It's projecting its life experience onto the fish, and in the process, hurting the fish. How does that relate to coaching?
Well, I think it's just such a different experience. You know, if I try to tell an athlete now how I navigated those waters, that doesn't even apply. And it may not even help them, it may hurt them. So finding the new way to help them navigate the new normal, I think, is really important.
And there's such a great quote. "Don't limit children to your own learning, for they have been born in another age." Let that sink in for a second. And if you think about this question right here, this is something that an NBA coach asks himself to measure his relationships. What do you think the significance of this question is?
I think it's those honest conversations that happen over time that are going to create the relationship to be able to help influence an athlete.
And so many times when I show this to coaches, the first thing they'll say, it's getting harder and harder to tell the truth. Here's what's interesting. You know where they don't take it? It's getting harder and harder to get the truth. How do you process that?
I think as coaches, we are world-class tellers. That's what we've been trained to do, is tell and fix and everything. But we have not been trained to ask or to listen.
And if you think about this, that is what the game is becoming. Because if you look at the things that get in the way of the team, all of them are human-related issues, right? And so if you think about it from your perspective, what is your role in attacking these issues? I think a lot of that can be solved through conversation. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at a couple of examples here on why this is so important. So Kyrie Irving, you're going to see this. He returns to go back to where he came from in Boston. First round of this year's playoffs, has an incredible first game. Take a look at what happens right after he hits this shot.
Irving fires away. Got it! A two-pointer for Kyrie Irving.
And I think he might have saluted them.
And this was such a beautiful shot. Turns and the middle finger salute to one of the fans. I hope he gets fined for that.
All right, so this is right after. So fan captures that, right? This is right after the game. You guys hear that? Okay. So then this is him at the post-game press conference.
It looked like there were a couple times where you gave the fans the finger. I'm curious, was there anything that you thought crossed the line today, and are you the kind of guy that gets motivated by kind of going back and forth with the fans? Do you kind of use that internally as something to fire you up?
Look, I mean, I'm just where I'm from. You know, I'm used to all these antics and people being close nearby. You know, it's nothing new when I come into this building, what it's going to be like. But it's the same energy they have for me, and I'm going to have the same energy for them. And it's not every fan. I don't want to attack every fan, every Boston fan. But, you know, when people start yelling pussy and bitch and fuck you and all this stuff. It's but so much you can take as a competitor. And, we're the ones expected to be docile and be humble and take a humble approach. Nah, fuck that. It's the playoffs. This is what it is. I know what to expect in here, and it's the same energy I'm giving back to them. It is what it is. I'm not really focused on it. It's fun. You know what I'm saying? And again, where I'm from, I've dealt with so much. So coming in here, you relish it as a competitor. And this is, I'm going to keep repeating myself when I say again, but this isn't my first time at TD Garden. So what you guys saw and what you guys think is as entertainment, or the fans think is entertainment, all is fair in competition. So if somebody's going to call me out of my name, I'm going to look at them straight in the eye and see if they really about it. Most of the time, they're not.
It just seems to me like that's someone who's been hardened by their environment.
There's no doubt. And what's interesting is I did an interview with Kyrie the first year he came into the league. So he had just finished up at Duke playing for Coach K. I asked him the best lesson that he learned from Coach K. So just contrast what you've seen here in this moment with this.
Best thing Coach K taught me is how to be a professional.
What does that mean?
What it means is that all the time you're on top of your game, no matter what, all the time, whether it's coming to appearances, doing business things, or being out on the court, more importantly. Dedicate yourself to your craft, and that comes with being a professional. If you're going to be a professional, then you have to be that all the time. There's no days off.
When you look at that, you think about, does he take on the role of the villain in this situation in order to motivate himself? And the question I would ask is, if he does, and even if he does, is that a satisfying way to live your life?
I think the thing that's underappreciated with this, and I think if you talk to NBA athletes, they will say the same thing, that think about a platform where there's all these people that come under one roof and experience this thing, and you feel the energy. It's like a concert, okay? But there's a global distribution of the game in real time. So when they walk back to the locker room and they pick up their phones, there's a commentary that's going on, right? And if you think about the notification center, just think about all the people that you follow. If every one of those tweeted 3 times in an hour, their notification center is about them, and it would be more populated than your entire newsfeed. Think about that for a second. That's their reality. So then to come in and say, hey, and shame, that's not the play, because they're going to know that you don't get it. What is the play? Trying to understand how you go from that to that, right? And so how can we learn from that? Well, I think there's a really cool person that we can learn from. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is him on draft night. Look at how innocent the guy looks. Didn't even know where to get a suit. Not from America, all the stuff. It's amazing, and that's an amazing 60 Minutes feature. I would encourage you all to watch it. In the NBA Finals last year, I don't know if you follow it, he airballed a few free throws. His routine took longer than normal, so the fans would count, because you have 10 seconds to shoot a free throw. So just take a look at this.
He was asked after game 1, do you hear the fans counting? He says, do I hear the fans counting? There's 20,000 people going 1, 2. He says, of course I do, but I'm going to embrace it and stick to my routine, which seems to have sped up a bit.
He sped up, but if they ever are playing from way ahead, late in the fourth quarter, I think he should just hold it there and see how far it goes. We got guys on the phone in front of us timing him, and he had him at 8.5.
Well, the crowd delights in the air ball as he hits 1 for 2.
So think about this. If he does the double bird, what happens? What would that do to the fans?
Energize.
It would totally energize them, right? Think about that. What you fight, you give power to. He was able to do what? This. That's what makes him unique. And so what I'd like to show you is he was asked this past year, so this is the year after this happened, about his personal accolades. Take a look at what he says.
I feel like we don't talk much about you being in contention for the scoring champion. And I think that's because of you, because we know what you care about. You care about the team, you care about health, your priorities are otherwise. And I know that you wouldn't change your style of play, but do you track that at all? Is that one of the, not at all, not a little, not, you don't ask anybody, you don't look?
No, he holds you back. Like he holds you back. I really believe in this. You don't get to your full potential when you worry about the wrong things. You know, and I'm obsessed with basketball. I really want to be the best that I can be. And, you know, I've showed it times and times that I'm about that. I'm not about scoring champ. I can care less. You know, I'm not about MVP. I can care less. You know, I just want to be the best player that I can be. And whatever that takes me, I'm okay with that. You know, so if I keep worrying about if I can win the scoring champ and who I've done it in the past and who I'm in cup, no. It takes me away from the goals that I really want to achieve. So but I know a lot of people follow it. You know, I know probably my teammates follow it or my brother follow it, but I try to close my social media, throw all those distractions away, and just focus on how can I today, how can I get better? How can I how can I make free throws? How can I improve my jump shot? How can I be a better teammate? How can I be stronger, more explosive? How can I make good decisions? How can I enjoy the game? How can I focus on myself without being selfish? Just, you know, focus on myself by making the good decision for myself and my teammates. How can I be in the moment and don't worry about the future? Like, those are the things that allow me to reach my full potential, and those are the things I worry about every single day.
So here's a list of the questions you just asked. And the thing to me that's most appealing about this clip is just how quick it is. It's top of mind. How do you think about that?
Yeah, there's no way that that's not something that he's thinking about on a daily basis, or he wouldn't be able to take a list of questions like that so quickly. And you sort of wonder, is him being an international playing into that in any way in terms of his ability to tune out some of those distractions?
Sixth graders are getting ranked. Think about how that affects them, puts them in a comparative state of mind early. Think about how that affects the parents. It is so hard for them to not get wrapped up into that reality. And then that's your only exposure to it. We were just talking to an athletic director the other day, and they were saying, you know how when you have your announcement, you pick the hat. Someone's doing that to go to the high school that they're choosing, right? The commercialization of sport is happening at younger and younger ages, which is harder for them to ask these kinds of questions. They're thinking about something else. And the one thing I'll say is that you're reinforced at a young age to get, not give. How do you think about that?
100%. I mean, if you think about even, you know, things like social media and how you monetize social media now, like all of it is about how can I get on the best team? How can I get the best scholarship offer? How can I get the best contract? And it's just something that is ingrained from the beginning of the sport experience.
And I think that's why what we're going to show you here is what we're about. This is one of the coolest shots that I've ever seen.
Suggs for the win! Oh, yes! Unbelievable! The perfect season remains on go!
Final Four game, it was nominated for Best Game by the ESPYs. That was Jalen Suggs. What's so cool about Jalen is we met once a week via Zoom because it was during the pandemic. And the night before he hit that shot, I asked him, what do you want to happen tomorrow? And he said, I want to make my 7-year-old self proud. That's an evolved mindset. He didn't start the season that way. Now, here's what's interesting. The next day, he's from Minnesota. The Twins tweet out a video. How crazy is that? Isn't that wild? Now, what Jalen would do before the games is he'd go to the hardwood where it was the brightest so he could see his reflection, and he would talk to himself. At the beginning of the year, what he would say is, go kill. At the end of the year, it was, have fun, I love you. That was the personal transformation that he made. He was drafted 3rd. On draft night, we made this for him. Right? To stay anchored to the innocence and the why that made you fall in love with the game in the first place. And that is the lesson that we hope he learned and takes with him forever from Gonzaga, because as you saw with Kyrie, all these guys are susceptible to that environment. And your inner strength must increase with your success.